there, my name is Vinny Voodoo, and yesterday Activision re-enabled the high-resolution on-demand texture streaming servers, and this option is under graphics down the bottom there, on-demand texture streaming. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a look at some guns and some operators, then fly into Caldera to see if it has affected the performance, not necessarily the actual visuals of the environment of Caldera, and then sum up. Now, if you've not seen any of my texture pack comparison videos before, I recommend you do so. They're probably more in depth than this one's going to be. I also warn you now that the actual improvement by having this on to your operator is minimal, negligible at best. But I'm not here to be a proponent of this option. I'm just here to give you the information so you can make the decision as to whether it's worth your time to turn this option on. So enough waffle, why don't we go take a look at the guns and go from there. Right, we're looking at a couple of guns here, obviously Vanguard guns, and you'll see it go from kind of being somewhat blurry to being cleaner, and it's actually quite effective at this range when you're looking at it. So if we're looking at this gun here and you look at the barrel parts here, what I'll do is count 3, 2, 1, that's with on-demand texture streaming on. Again, I'll switch it off, 3, 2, 1, off, it's just blurrier. And so one last time, we'll switch it back on for this gun. 3, 2, 1, on. Right, so that gives you an idea of the kind of quality improvement. Let's jump over to a shotgun, exactly the same thing, but if you look at the barrel, you'll notice the pixels on it are kind of square blocks. Let's switch over now, and it's cleaner. There's pixels actually there. Again, I'll go back to the before on-demand texture streaming version there, and we'll have a look. 3, 2, 1 with now on-demand texture streaming on. So that's the level of improvement you should expect with this mode on the guns. You know, I was actually quite impressed with the improvement on the guns. Not so much on the operators though, so without further ado, why don't we go take a look at operators, Vanguard operators specifically, with on-demand texture streaming on. Okay, before we begin, this kind of happened by accident. I thought it's fascinating. It shows the 4 levels of resolution that an operator has, this being level 1. And this is a guy you're sniping in the distance, and so it will pull these servers off. Now, in a moment, it goes to level 2. There it went. This is going to be the resolution of a mid-range guy that you're shooting across a forecourt or something like that. And I want you to make a note of the patch on his pocket. In fact, I'll zoom in on it as it goes from level 2 to level 3. 3 would be the end. Hang on. There it goes. Now we're on level 3. We'll come back out, and if you look at him, he looks normal. And this is what it would be without high-resolution texture streaming on. But with high-resolution texture streaming on, there's a 4th level, and if you look at the stepping that's still on that patch, he'll just turn to his left a little, and as he comes back, it will clean up 1 extra time. The stepping is now gone. And that's the increase that on-demand texture streaming gives you. It's that 1 little extra push away from the obvious digital artifacts and anti-aliasing of a mid to high range texture to the upper range of textures. So with that said, why don't we go and have a look at some of the other operators from Vanguard. Right, we'll start with young Wade here and the stitching down his arm. What I'll do is I'll zoom in and slow it down, and if we take a look at it, you can see it's got a slight step in it, but it still looks fine because it's stitching. But when the actual high resolution level 4 kicks in, it's good. There it did. It just came in just then. You can see the individual stitches. And if we go and look at the next guy, same thing. The stitching always kind of gives you the key that it's doing it. If you look at the bottom there with the stepping on it, and it'll slowly kick in. And when it does, it's just cleaner. Now, it may be hard to see that. So what I'll do is I'll hard cut back to before on demand now, and then hard cut forward to with it on now, and that gives you an idea of how it goes. Now you can see the stitching down her pants leg too. I won't bother zooming in, just clean up. But it's not just clothing it affects, it's skin tone and so on. If you look at the tat here, the birds that are in that tat will suddenly get cleaner and it'll get blacker like it just did. And we'll take another look at tattoo, and what I'll do is I'll zoom really close in, and you can see the stepping there that's on it, and now it will clean up then. So that's the level 4 on-demand high-resolution texture kicking in. So with all that shown, why don't we jump into Caldera and see if this mode has any effect on the performance of the game. Here we go. Right. Obviously, he doesn't have his weapons on. Put your weapons on, son. Right. Now, traditionally, in my texture pack comparison videos, I used to fly into hills. But there is no hills here unless there's something close to it, so I'm going to have to pick a new traditional place to fly into. Okay, a lot of people ask me when I do my comparison videos, is the on-demand texture streaming and the original texture packs only affect operators of guns, so what's the point in flying into Verdansk, or in this case Caldera? There won't be any change. Well, there is, because the actual texture packs and now the on-demand texture streaming pack aid performance. People think it hurts. It doesn't. Instead of going to online to get a texture for an operator that you know, an enemy or a colleague that you've got, it now can get them from the bin, assuming you've met them before. Every game I've played in this, there is some lag I can see there. Usually ends up with all of the buildings looking like shoeboxes. And I tell you what, I'll land over there. Ooh, my gun kind of looked a bit weird there for a minute, but I've seen that effect before. Right. In fact, this is going to be the new spot where I'll always land on a texture pack comparison vid. And I chose my gold HDR here so I could actually zoom in. And now that's the kind of effect I'm talking about, which is, it didn't used to do this game. That'll probably, oh, it is cleaning up. I was going to say probably never clean up. But this is better than I've seen this game look in a long time in terms of its cleanup. I'm still seeing the lag icons on the left there, but that's okay. I remember when Verdansk just didn't look like this, although it did clean up nicely then. Having said that, I've played a game where I've looked over the town here and it never cleaned up until I went up to it. It was always looking like caca. So I'll have a quick game here, and if there's anything interesting to report, as it currently stands, this looks fine. I'm really impressed with that. Now, they could have just sped up their Activision service, or it could be because I've been playing a few games with the on-demand texture streaming on yesterday, and it cached a lot of the textures of guns and of operators that may be nearby, which normally it would have to go online and look for the 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of texture resolution that it has to do. But if nothing exciting happens, we'll just jump out and sum up, and we'll see what happens. And so there we are. It's been an interesting trip back down to doing a comparison video. It's been a while since I've done one. This has been a lot shorter than the ones I've done in the past. I've already done a recent on-demand texture streaming comparison video, which I'll link to in the description and at the end of this video. And I do recommend going and having a look at the FAQ, which may answer all your questions. And if it does not, please leave me a comment or question down below. Now, the final thing, I guess, is, do I recommend you turn this on? Well, it's not recommended for OG last gens, that's why it only goes up to standard, so that's your choice, but do expect some performance issues regardless. However, the actual thing about this is it creates a cache on your hard drive of 24 gig of textures, which normally it would have to pull off Activision's servers. So if it doesn't have to pull them off servers, that leaves more resources and bandwidth to actually, pull the environment off, which is why I think the game looks better with this option on when it works. Now, having said that as well, it's only been on for 24 hours, and it did cause a lot of problems when Vanguard came out with hard freezes. I experienced them too, and so if you've got any issues at all with crashing or freezing, turn it off. But if you want to give it a go under the obvious premise that visually it doesn't do that much to your operators and guns. It's just a little bit extra. Now I'm watching this in 4K, super sampled down to 1080p, then it's compressed by my edit software, then it's compressed by YouTube. So the visual impact that you're seeing is not as great as what I'm seeing. And I recommend trying it and seeing if it actually helps Caldera resolve faster, which in my experience it does when it works. It just leaves me to say that my name is Mini Voodoo, and thanks for watching.